Okay, so I've done my floors, and if we go to the 3D view, it's a good idea to see if you can find those things in that view and make sure that you can navigate and clearly see all those 3D elements. And then in the plan view, I must start with the lower floor plan. Again, we can see the walls, but it's a bit harder to see the floors. We know they're there though. And so now I'm going to put in some openings, starting with the doors, that should be at the same height as the floors, of course, because we want the people to be able to step into the building through the doors and of course arrive at the floor level. So it's going to go back to the resources and open up one of these drawings. And so the tiny house set out dimensions that we've been using previously, that won't be very useful anymore because it doesn't really show many of the openings. That one was just there to give you a starting point for the dimensions for the walls. But then now that we've got those, we can look at this old terrace house setup drawing file, which should give us the position of the openings. And so we'll need to get that from some of these different drawings. It's a bit odd the way that it's been dimensioned. The dimensions here you can see show us the positions of these openings, or give us the measurements, but the openings are actually drawn on the next sheet. And I think they've even missed out one or two things. So I might even have a look in the photos and double check that. So let's open up these. Yeah, so we've got one on the ground floor and two on the upper floor. And is that what's shown here? No. Okay, so maybe on this plan. Oh no, it is there. Sorry, I'm just blind. Okay, so we've got the two doors there. I'm not sure if this there is like that, but at least we've got the measurements for the size of the openings. We won't worry too much about the sorts of doors. We can easily change that. Okay, so starting with the lower level there, I'm just going to zoom in so we can actually read some of these measurements. That's actually not giving me what I want. So I'll go and have a look on the next page. And yeah, we've got some of the measurements. So we've got the door size, 850. So because there's no measurement given here, we can just assume it's the same size for that door above. And also for the door on the lower level, looks like we haven't got a measurement for that. So again, we'll just assume it's also 850 for now. And it's easy to change, you can need to adjust that later. So again, stick with that 850. And if you're worried about the way these dimensions are given, it's actually quite standard. Normally you'll be given, and when you take your own measurements as well, you'll have accurate measurements for things like the position of walls, but openings are secondary. And so it's not as important to have accurate measurements for those things. Now you might think that it's the case. It's actually not good practice to dimension to the openings before you've got your wall dimensions established. So the wall dimensions are much more important, and again the openings are secondary. So it's quite standard. And so I know all I need to know. I just need to know that opening size, so 850. And so going on from there, I'm going to use the door tool in the lower floor plan, and then have a look over in properties and see which doors I have loaded. So at the moment we've just got this one M single flush, which is not that good, essentially. It's more an American style door with a big architrave and without a door jamb. So that one isn't really what I want. So I'm instead going to go to Load Family up on the ribbon there, and then go to the Revit Library folder on the P drive. So if you've got a shortcut to that, you can of course use it, but I'm just browsing so that everyone can see where it is. And so again, go to the doors folder, and you can see here we've got a really big collection of doors that you can use. And I'm actually going to have a look at these photos and try and get an idea of what sort of door might be there. It's quite hard to see with the screen door over the front, but it's probably some sort of standard entry door, similar to the panel door you can see up here. So we've got all of these exterior door types, and a good way of getting a good look at them is to just click once on the file you want to look at, and you'll see the preview open on the right hand side there. So it's going to click through these. They're all double doors when I don't want those. So just going through, and we've got a few different panel doors there. So this one's pretty close, I think, to what we want. Pretty hard to see there. Zoom in maybe. Oh no, it does have a big panel there. Okay, so let's keep going. So that one, it's okay. If we have to use that, I will, but I'm just going to keep going through and see a few others. And this is something you can change. With your design, you can definitely change the door, even though you can't do much to the facade. That is something where you can definitely make a bit of a change, but don't put a really modern style door. That wouldn't go with the building, but you can definitely change it a little bit. Yeah, so none of those are quite what I want, so I'm just going to use that one that I found earlier, which was close to what I want. This one here, the panel door, and we can easily change that to a different type afterwards. Okay, so I'm going to double click on that. Exterior single 5. Okay, so that's loaded the door type, but now I need to set the size I want. So I'll start by looking in the type selector, and you can see there the two different sizes that come with this door, again, aren't the size I want. So I'll click on that list at the top again, just to make it go away, and then I can click on Edit Type, and then duplicate, and type in my new name. So I'm just going to call it 850 door. Click OK, and then scroll down to find the rough width is what I'll use. So here you can see the rough width is essentially going to change the width of the door. And it's going to change that to 850. And click OK. And now as I hover over that wall, you can see the door placement is shown, and I'm going to just make sure it's going inwards, and I'm just zooming out a little bit so that I can see the dimensions there as well. And I'm just trying to get this door to be centered inside that alcove. So you can see on the left those two dimensions that are coming up, 182.5, so they're both even, which tells me the door is centered inside the wall. And Revit's pretty good at snapping to things like that. So I'll click to place it, and of course we can see the door, and this one has a nice door jamb as well, which is good. And so then I'm going to go to the upper level floor plan, upper floor, and simply repeat that process. So using the door tool again, I'm going to save this one, and I'm just going to place the door over the top of the one below, and then another one for the front door. And again, trying to get that door centered inside that wall, even though that probably is not entirely correct. If we have a look at this, a bit hard to see there, but it probably is off center. Whereabouts? Oh no, it's a door. Yeah, because I've got to be able to get out to the balcony. Do that, yeah. Well, you could change it to whatever you like, though. Okay, so we can see there that, well, I'm assuming that's the handle because that looks like a lock there. So it's opening from that side. So that's actually correct the way I've got it. But if you need to flip it, you can click on the arrows there to change the direction that it opens. You can always have it opening outwards as well, but normally a door like this would open inwards. So that's probably correct, but let's have a look at the floor plan to see how that was done. Yeah, so that's the same. So that takes care of the front doors at least. And back into the 3D view. You can course see those doors. We'll need to add some floors for the balcony and the entry. But looking at the interior, we can see then that the door is at the same height as the floor, which is of course pretty important. Going over here, same thing. Sometimes it's a bit hard to see with hidden line view like this because we're really looking at the wall being cut away, so going to a shaded view sometimes will make it a bit easier to see if it lines up. So that's all come from the levels, and essentially the door families tend to sit at the height of your floors or your level, and you'll see there the sill height typically is just left at 0. But then windows, of course, tend to be above the floor level, so their sill works a bit differently. So now I'm going to use the window tool and again have a look at these drawings to get an idea of the window placement. And yeah, it's a bit odd, it's not dimensioned on these drawings, but the dimensions here I think for the windows back on that first floor plan. So 1,000 from the corner, and then the window itself is 1,000 wide. So I might just switch to the photos so we can see what type of window it is. I'm pretty sure they're double hung. Okay, so this one I've always been a bit unsure. I think that actually might be a door. But then up here that is a window. So maybe we'll stick another door in there, even though often people do change that to a window. You can get a better view of it. I think that's it. So yeah, so that again could be a door. So it's fine, just using the door tool there, and it's a bit odd though. It seems big to make it a metre, but I'll just go with that. So again, edit type, duplicate, and I'll make this 1,000 door, and again go down and change the rough width to 1,000. And then you can see there it's giving me a dimension, but it's not from the corner of my wall. So I'm just going to place the door roughly by eye, essentially. And then I'll press escape twice to cancel, or you can always right click and choose cancel twice, it does the same thing. And then I'll select that door so you can see the dimension. And we could always add it up. We know the wall is 300mm. Oh, sorry, no, it's not, 250 I mean. And so 1,000 minus 250 is 750, so we can change that dimension to 750 to make it 1,000 from the corner. But you can always change that dimension by dragging the witness line and make it measure from the outside of the wall. And then you could just change this dimension, of course, to 1,000. That's another way of doing it. So now I want to go on to do the windows. So here we've got a high upper level window. It's hard to see there at this angle, but I'm pretty sure it is double hung, even though it's quite a low sill height. So going to the window tool, and again load family to go to the library. And then this time I'll use my shortcut to go to that Revit library folder. And then go to Windows. And there you can see we've got a double hung 1L, which means one light window. So I'll double click on that. And then it comes up with a list of sizes. Now, these sizes are probably not what we want, any of them. So I'm just going to check here. I think it's, again, it's 1 metre wide, and I don't think we're given a height. Yeah, so that's from the floor, that's for the doors, but this one has a sill that's above that. We'll just need to work that out. So the important thing to know at the moment is that it's 1 metre wide, and we don't have that size in the list. So I'm just going to choose one that's close. So I'll maybe choose this one here, 1030 by 2170. Click OK. And that, of course, is going to load it. And you can see then that it has a sill height over here in properties. Now, to work out the height of this window, you can see there that we can see the bricks in the photo. And counting bricks is a really good way of establishing measurements. So you can see there, this is the floor level, projecting across. It does step up a little bit. If you have a look at the other photo, you can see there that there is a pretty substantial step up. But what we're looking at in the other photo is this edge here. So there's luckily a little brick riser next to that that entry step. So that top of the brick there is pretty much flush with the floor level inside. So that makes it a lot easier for us to then count the bricks, now that we know that. So again here, that's what we're seeing on the outside. So we can check that across. And so we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 bricks to the sill. So, remember the height of a brick with the mortar? No? Okay, a good thing to remember is the size of a brick. So a brick is, well, I'll just type it in so you can see it. Oops, not the calendar, sorry, the calculator. Pretty close, yeah. So it's 230 by 110 in plan, and then the height is, it's actually closer to 86 than to 85, but it's often rounded off to 85. Okay, so what did I say, 7 bricks for the sill? Yeah, so 85 times 7 gives us 595. That's right, you can round it to 600 because, like I was saying, it is closer to 86. And actually the way brick courses are laid, nowadays especially, is to make 7 courses fit to 600. So if you have 7 courses, then you can usually be pretty sure that that is exactly 600. Yes, exactly. That's right, exactly. Yeah. So, okay, so here I can just change my sill height to 600. And then I'm going to still click on Edit Type, and then check to see if they have got a default head height. Okay, we'll have a look at that in a second, but I'm going to change the width there, but I want to duplicate first, and I'll put in 1000 wide as the name. We don't know the height yet. And then I'll just type 1000 for the width. But they've got a rough width with this one. So let's type it in for the rough width. Sorry. Okay, so you can see there the width is slightly less than the rough width. The rough width is the size of the opening. The width is the size of the frame, and it is smaller, and they pack out to make it fit. So then we should be able to count the bricks here. So, well, let's do it because it's an important thing. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 18, 19, 20, let's say 22. Okay, so 22 times 85 gives us 1870. Okay, so I'll make that my rough height. And then I can add 600 to that rough height, which gives us 2470. And that'll just make sure that my sill is 600. I'll click OK. And then again, like before, I'm just going to click on my wall, but I'm on the lower floor plan. So I'm going to go and switch to the upper floor plan. And then it's bumped me out of the window tool, so I just need to click on the window tool again. And you can see it's remembered everything that I've done before, so I haven't lost that. I've got my double hung window there, 1000 wide, and then notice though that it's gone back to the original sill height. So I'm going to change that to 600 again. And, I didn't add up properly. Did I say, so 1870. No, I typed in 1570. And that should have been the rough height anyway. So, let's fix that. And then again check, so the default there, that should be 24. And it's going from the height, so so we'll leave it at 2410. And this is annoying. Now it's going to go back and change the height there, so we have to go then and change that back to 1870. And it should then leave my head alone. Still doing it. Yeah. So it's just an issue with the way this family was set up. It's not a big deal. As long as you get the height right, you can adjust the sill on the fly as you go. And if it's not clear why I'm looking at the head height here, essentially the head and the sill height are just two different ways of setting the height of the window from the floor. They both do the same thing essentially. But honestly, this window family wasn't set up all that well because the person who set it up did the sill height and the head height as different sorts of parameters, and they shouldn't have done that. But again, we can still work with it. So now I'll place my window. And just like before, check the dimension. So it should be 2100 from the corner of the wall there. So now if I come back and select that window, I can just change that dimension that comes up to 2100. And we're going to get an unusual measurement because it's measuring from the opening. Again, that's all to do with that rough width and height, which is a little bit confusing, but again, as long as it's roughly in the right position, that's fine. Go to the 3D view, and we can see the window there, so that's pretty good. And then we can use the same family for this narrow window here, and that's the next thing I wanted to show you. So back into the plan there, and so you can see this one is 400mm wide, and it's higher. It's probably a 900 sill, and the height maybe is different as well. It's harder to work this one out because we can't see the bricks, but we know it's lower. So I'm going to go back to the upper floor plan, click on the window tool. I don't need to load a new one, I'm going to use the same window. So I'll go to edit type, duplicate, and we'll call this one 400 wide. Again, we'll need to adjust the height and maybe work that out, but I'll just change the height here and have a guess and say it's maybe 1500 high. And also I'll do the rough height, using that. And again, I'll click OK, and then check the sill height there. I do want this to be 900, so I'm going to leave that. And now, now I must have forgotten to change the actual width, so I'll go back to edit type, and the width, again I'll use the rough width and make that 400. click OK, and then it's going to be careful to show you when I place this window that the cursor is closer to the outside than to the inside. You won't notice the difference by looking at it in plan, but you will notice it later when you look at it from the outside. So I'll show you how you can adjust it if you need to. I'm going to click to place it first, and then you can see, well, it does look a bit narrow. That's again all to do with that rough width, so we'll come back and have a look at that too. Go to 3D view, and so you can see there that the sash, the upper sash, sits on the outside. And that's an important thing with double hung windows. That's how they achieve the waterproofing. And so it's the same with this one here. Now if you do it the wrong way, you can simply select the window, press space, and that flips it. Now that's the wrong way, of course. The lower sash is now on the outside. We don't want that. So I'll select the window again, and then again space. Right, now I think these measurements that we've got are probably, they're taken from the frame maybe. So I'm going to select this window. The other one doesn't matter so much, but this one, the smaller one, because it is really narrow, I'm going to go to edit type and instead change the width to 400 instead of the rough width. So the rough width is going to become 450, that's fine. Click OK. It's just a little bit narrower, but that looks better. Let's have a look though. Still, I think could be wider. I think those measurements are quite a bit off, because this window looks to me like it's flush with that wall. So I'm going to make it the full width possible. Okay, so that distance there, I'll just check my measure, is 500. And I'll just show you, if we measure the window, you can see there that the opening size is actually 400. So again, even though this window it's the one we want because it looks the way we want it to, the way it's been set up is, to be honest, a bit odd. They've used this rough width property, but it hasn't been used in the right way. So we just need to allow for that, and in this case use the width. I'm going to change that to 500, and of course the rough width will now be 550, but it doesn't mean the window isn't going to fit. We know just from measuring that it's going to fit pretty well. So I click OK, and you can see now that window takes up that full opening, and that looks a whole lot better. There we are. Oh, so I didn't duplicate, I'm just editing that type. So going to edit type. No, it did that automatically because it was centered. So it just extended the window either side from that center point, and it lined up automatically. Now, if it doesn't, let's say though it doesn't line up and you need to move it, I'll show you how to do that. Okay, so maybe if the window's to one side, I'll just move that so that it's not lining up properly. So you might have that. You can easily adjust it. If you select the window, it will give you a dimension, but here you can see it's not dimensioning in the right way. So instead, I'm going to go to the Modify tab and use the Align tool. I'm just going to select Align, which is the big and small rectangle, and I'm going to choose the outside face of this wall, or the reference plane if you have one, but the wall works just as well. And then I'm going to find the edge of the window there that I want to line up with that wall. And that lines it up perfectly. So there we are. So that gives you these two main windows. I'm pretty sure there's another window down here, but it's really hard to see it in the photo. So if you get a chance to do a site visit, which isn't, it's not very far to walk, you maybe can find out what's there. And I think there's also something here. It's a bit hard to see. So I'm just going to assume that there is a window directly below this upper one that's the same type of window. So I'll show you a really good way of lining windows up exactly across different levels. So I'm going to select this window on the upper floor, and then click Copy to Clipboard on that Modify tab that just comes up automatically. So below the scissors there, you've got the two pages. That's Copy to Clipboard, not this one. It has to be the one with the two pages. And then I'll go to the lower floor plan, and then just click on the down arrow under Paste, and choose Align to Current View. And that puts a copy of my window aligned exactly with this floor plan. So if I go to a 3D view, you can see it there, clearly lined up. Okay, now the height is probably different. In fact, we know it is because we can see the door height there, so it's 2 bricks, I think, by eye below that door. And we can see here that at the moment it's higher than the door. So I'm going to adjust the height using firstly the sill. So I think the sill height is lower. A bit hard to be sure because we can't really see in that photo, but let's just say it is lower. So from properties I can change the sill. Maybe we'll go down to, well, let's do it 400. But then the window head is still higher than the door. So maybe I want to bring that down another 300. So I'm going to go to Edit Type, and then this time, Duplicate. Okay, because I want to change the height. So I'm going to change the name to 1000. It's still going to be 1000 wide by, what did I say, 400 less. So at the moment it's, let's say, 1870. And so taking 400 off that, so 1470. And then I'll change that rough height to that, 1470. Click OK, and you can see now it's got the top of my window now. Yeah. So I'll give you some time to try those things, and then we can continue adding in the extra floors beneath for the entry, and then maybe have a look at doing the roof and the stairs. See how long we've got.